One of the most widely misunderstood aspects of Marxism-Leninism is the dictatorship of the proletariat. The common assertion is that the dictatorship of the proletariat is just another phrase for a communist state in which power is vested in the hands of a single man or a few top party officials, when this is simply not the case. This video will consist of two parts, first explaining the state from a Marxist perspective, and then explaining what the dictatorship of the proletariat actually is. To understand the dictatorship of the proletariat, you must first understand Marx, Engels, and Lenin's view of the state. In the Marxist view, the state is the manifestation of class conflict. Engels says this on the origin of the family, private property, and the state. Quote, "The state is therefore by no means a power imposed on society from outside. Rather, it is a product of society at a particular stage of development. It is the admission that this society has involved itself in insoluble self-contradiction and is cleft into clashing antagonisms, which it is powerless to dispel. But in order that these antagonisms, classes with conflicting economic interests, shall not consume themselves in society in fruitless struggle, a power, apparently standing above society, has become necessary to moderate the conflict and keep it within the bounds of order. And this power, arisen out of society, but placing itself above it and increasingly alienating itself from it, is the state." Lenin explains this Marxist viewpoint in a clear manner, stating in State and Revolution, "The state is the product of the manifestation of the irreconcilable nature of class antagonisms. The state arises when, where, and to the extent that class antagonisms cannot be objectively reconciled. Because the interest of the bourgeoisie and the interest of the proletariat is in direct conflict with each other, any reconciliation between the two is not possible, and if it were possible, the state would not exist or be able to maintain itself." We can summarize the Marxist view of the state as follows. 1. The state is a result of class conflict. 2. The state is an arbiter in said class conflict. And 3. The state is the domination of one class over another. In what way and why is the state born? As for why, the explanation is simple. In a bourgeois state, which is a state in which the bourgeoisie dominate the proletariat, the bourgeoisie are the very small minority when compared to the large majority who are proletarian. Thus, in order to maintain their power over the majority, the state is born. In what way does the state exercise its power? Through state institutions. These include the police, military, prisons, and repressive institutions of all kinds. Engels calls these institutions the public force, which consists of special bodies of armed men. Now we move on to the dictatorship of the proletariat. The dictatorship of the proletariat is most clearly defined as a state in which the proletariat exclusively holds political power. The proletariat seizes political power by means of a violent revolution that overthrows the bourgeoisie and completely annihilates all functions of the state, and replacing those functions with proletarian functions. Here are some excerpts from the explanation given by Engels. The proletariat seizes state power and then transforms the means of production into state property. But in doing this, it puts an end to itself as the proletariat. It puts an end to all class differences and class antagonisms. It puts an end also to the state as the state. He continues, in ancient times, the state of the slave-owning citizens, in the Middle Ages of the feudal nobility, in our epoch, the bourgeoisie. When ultimately it becomes really representative of society as a whole, it makes itself superfluous. As soon as there are no longer any class of society to be held in subjection, as soon as, along with class domination and the struggle for individual existence based upon the former anarchy of production, the collisions and excesses arising from these have also been abolished, there is nothing more to repress, a special repressive force, a state, is no longer necessary. He ends this passage with, "The state is not abolished, it withers away." So, in essence, the dictatorship of the proletariat is a means to an end. The proletariat seizes the state apparatus in order to repress the bourgeoisie, thus begins the so-called withering away. In the Marxist view, the state ceases to be a state in the classical sense after the proletariat seizes power, as real majority rule is in place. The dictatorship of the proletariat can be summarized as follows. 1. The proletariat seizes state power and thus institutes majority rule. 2. The proletariat uses the state apparatus to repress the bourgeoisie for a period of time until class distinction is wiped out. 3. The seizure of power and the abolition of private property along with it means that there is no longer a need for a state or repressive force. This is where I'm going to end my explanation. If you want to see how the dictatorship of the proletariat worked on a practical rather than a theoretical level, I will have a few videos on the subject in the description below. If you haven't already, click subscribe and please comment if you have anything I got wrong or you would like me to clear up. Thanks for watching and goodbye.